I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent He who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. He who sent me will direct me. And I am content to be wherever He wishes. Know when He goes, there with me. Will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Well, I am here only to be truly helpful. And I am here to represent He who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. He who sent me will direct me. And I am content to be wherever He wishes. Know when He goes, there with me. Will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal.
I am now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom, and my soul is at peace in God.
I now let go. I relax. I release all cares and concerns. I open my mind to the healing, omnipresent light. That light of pure being that fills my mind and my body. that radiates through every aspect of my life. I continue to relax. I move deeper into the awareness of this beautiful light. As I let go, I feel the peace of God rise in my mind and my body. This healing light moves through every aspect of my life. For a few moments of quiet, I let this healing light shine. I begin now to come from this time of quiet. As I move through my day, I recall the peace, the power of this gentle presence. This omnipresent light of God, healing every aspect of my mind, my body, and my affairs. Thank you, God. Amen. Well, good morning and welcome to Independent Unity. And this service is, the part of the service that I'm presenting is being brought to you via technology. It's allowing us to be in two places at once. And probably most of you know by now that Beth and I are in Missouri. We've made our annual pilgrimage there to visit family. And so I don't have a backup speaker at this point that I would like to present to you, so I'm doing this myself and hoping that you're having or have had a great 4th of July and that the true significance of this holiday really sinks in. So today I want to talk about the spirit of freedom. And of course, I'm going to be talking about it from a spiritual perspective. We know about the idea of a nation that's built on the concept of freedom. We're known as the land of the free. But we also see that there are a lot of people, including each one of us, that fall into captivity or fall into bondage in certain ways. Jesus made this comment that you'll know the truth and the truth will make you free. And his audience said, we're not in bondage to anyone. And he said that if you sin, you're a slave to sin. That is, if you fall into levels of life, of thinking, of emotion, that take you down to a lesser level, you're a slave to that lesser level. But that can be changed, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But when he stood before Pilate and was kind of defending himself on the charges that were brought against him, one thing Pilate said is that you call yourself a king. And Jesus said, I don't call myself a king. That's what you call me. And then he says, for this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of truth hears my voice. So he's stating very clearly how he sees his purpose. The reason that he came was to bear witness to the truth. And Pilate, of course, says, what is truth? And Jesus doesn't answer. Probably because he understands that Pilate wouldn't grasp that answer that he would give. But that's what I want to talk about today is bearing witness to the truth is the key to freedom. The kind of freedom that we all really want to experience. So when I read this passage, I hear Jesus saying that he recognized his mission, his purpose in life, as one of demonstrating what it means to live from the awareness of his oneness with God. When he says truth, the word truth, he's talking about the truth of being. To live from the awareness of his oneness with God. To bear witness to the truth, that is to tell other people about it, is to share with them that same truth. The Father and I are one, but the Father and you are one too. Your Father in you is the source of your being, therefore you are one. I'm bearing witness to this truth. I'm demonstrating my awareness that the Father and I are one. And I'm telling you that your spiritual source, your Father, and you are also one. So I don't see him making this statement as exclusive to himself, but more as the ultimate objective of every person. When he said, you'll know the truth and the truth will make you free, he was saying that the truth of our oneness with God is our key to freedom. And this is absolutely true. Because when we think of ourselves in the normal sense, we generally put ourselves in a historical context, starting from the moment we were born. And we celebrate that moment each year as our birthday. And I celebrated mine actually a few days ago. And it's a very real part of us. But in a larger context, in a spiritual context, it is a very small part of us. It has to do only with our physical existence, this vehicle that we call the physical body that we're here putting around on this planet in. That which I am, the truth of my being, the truth of who and what I am, is eternal. It has no beginning, no end. There is no birth date. Every moment actually is the birth date. So I don't see Jesus making this statement as being exclusive to himself. And while we celebrate freedom as a nation, it's clear that simply living in a geographical location doesn't guarantee us the level of inner freedom that we all long for. There are a lot of people that are in mental and emotional bondage. Anyone who lives in fear, and that would include all of us from time to time, we are slaves to that fear. And we would like to be free from it. And the question is, how do we achieve that freedom? We can be free to move about, to pursue our interests, to interact with our family and friends, and yet live in the bondage of some form of fear. And every one of us know what that's like, and we know the discomfort of it, and we're actually working all the time to figure out how to rise above that level of experience. Fear is debilitating at every level. It's grounded in the perception that the thing we fear is greater than our ability to resolve it. To bear witness to the truth is to connect with a deeper level that enables us to rise above fear and successfully meet the challenge that confronts us. When I was growing up, my parents sent me to a camp. I don't know if it was a scout camp or a church camp. I don't remember what it was, but for every breakfast, we would go to a mess hall, long tables and all very rustic type of atmosphere, but there'd be pitchers of milk on each table. And one morning, a kid that I got to know, his name was Billy, sitting across the table from me, and somebody knocked over the pitcher of milk, and it spilled directly on Billy. It was almost like his consciousness drew that to him in some way. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's Billy's karma, but it freaked him out. And Billy sat there crying. He started crying and sitting there as the milk kept pouring into his lap. And we had a counselor. He was probably in his early 20s, maybe late teens. He seemed like an old person at the time. His name was Chuck. And Billy sat there as the milk poured over the table into his lap, crying and saying, "Chuck, milk spilling on me." And Chuck, the very wise counselor, he said, "Billy, why don't you move?" Billy was he was so traumatized that the thought of getting out of the way of the spilling milk couldn't even enter his mind. But once Chuck brought him to his senses, Billy got up and moved out of the path of the then dripping milk. So in a sense, that's the thing that we are to do when we are experiencing trauma of fear, the trauma of fear. Why don't you move? Why don't you get out of the way of this thing that you're holding on to? Why do you keep thinking over and over and over about it? Why do you fear it? Why do you wonder if it's going to ruin you? Why do you allow it to continue to rob you of your peace of mind? Why don't you move? Why don't I move? So it's a very good question, a very simple question. And what do we mean by moving? We're entertaining something that's really bothering us. Why don't we move? Why don't we stop doing that? There's something in us that thinks the longer and harder we think about a thing, the more likely we are to resolve it. And that is true sometimes, and in fact it's true any time that we're dealing with a problem and we're trying to reach a solution. But what if there is no solution to the thing that we're experiencing? And that is fear. What if we experience fear out of habit, that we don't even think we can overcome it? We don't see it as something that we can put in our rearview mirror and walk away from on a permanent basis. It's because we don't think it's possible. We are judging ourselves according to our history, according to our birth and our someday coming death. That whatever we accumulate while we're here in this body, that's the sum of who and what we are. So we encounter things that appear to be larger, a lot of spilt milk going on, and we're directly in the path of it. And we sit there and analyze, why did this happen to me? You know, what is this thing? Why do I find myself in the path of spilt milk so often? It's just part of human experience, part of the human experience. That's what I conclude, and there's nothing I can do about it. But if the spilt milk happens to be a state of fear, a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction, is there a way I can get out of that, the path of that reaction, the path of that fear? And the answer ultimately is yes. To bear witness to the truth is to be able to get out of the path of fear. Because the truth is, as the Bible points out, we were not given a spirit of fear. That's not the real us. That's not the deeper self that we are here to demonstrate, here to bear witness to. So how do we get out of the path of fear? How do we move beyond spiritual platitudes and arrive at a place of understanding that assures our freedom? The first thing we do is acknowledge the influence of perception, which is a mental impression that we form based on the limited facts at our disposal. Perception can be changed, and that's a very important thing to understand. When Jesus warned us against judging by appearances, he was talking about the mental impressions that we form and react to based on information that comes through the senses. For some reason, Billy sat in the path of the spilling milk, paralyzed by that appearance. This thing was larger than him at that moment. And we've all been there. We all know. I'm not making fun of Billy by any means. I may have very well done the same thing, just because he was taken so off guard, caught off guard by this sudden thing that was happening to him. But we can sit there and we can cry, or we can begin to understand that this thing that we're dealing with is a perception. Or we look at the perceptual aspect of it. Is this the whole truth? Is this thing I'm seeing, is it the whole truth? Or am I not seeing the whole truth? Am I not seeing every aspect of the whole truth? What I'm seeing is based on information that has come through the senses. And I do have senses, and they're a very important tool that I utilize on this earth. But do they tell the whole story? Do they talk about, do they relate the power of spirit? Do they relate to me the fact that I am grounded in an eternal presence that has no beginning, has no end, that will allow me to rise above any appearance that says I'm something less than I am in truth? So Jesus is saying that we can break this cycle and free ourselves from the emotional roller coaster ride that we often fall victim to. And how do we do this? We begin by releasing the energy that we're giving a perception. And we affirm the truth we want to express. I'll say this again. We release the energy, we're giving a perception. That is the reaction. Look at the emotion you're pouring into the thing. Look at how you're thinking of it. Look at how you're putting yourself, look at the perspective you're putting yourself in as you think about it. This thing is larger than me. Therefore, I must be afraid. I must fear. Is this true? What is that exactly? What is going on when we are perceiving a thing as greater than ourselves? A power greater than ourselves in a negative sense. What is this perception? It is thought. It is emotion. Based on an arrangement of ideas that we put together. And we decide this thing is going to make me miserable, or this thing is going to give me the opportunity to rise above. The perception that we hold is energy. And we have the ability to let go of this perception, to sit down and relax and say, this appearance is just that. It is a shadow. Something is casting that shadow. The shadow is not itself something that is real. The shadow is being cast by another source. So perception is energy. Do I have control over my thoughts? Do I have control over my emotions? I do. But am I exercising it? Am I saying this thing is a perception? It is a mental emotional construction that I have made. Yes, it looks very real and it seems quite justified. But does that mean that I have to succumb to its apparent power and give up my freedom by cowering in fear? Am I required to do this? Is this what I have to do? Or have I come to bear witness to the truth? The truth that this thing out here that's going on in my experience, that's going on in my outer life, has many perceptual components that are subject to change, that are subject to my choices. Do I have the ability to do something about that? And the answer is yes, I do. Unity teaches the power of denial and affirmation, that is, the power of releasing energy we have poured into appearances and affirming what is true despite the appearance. So it's a releasing and a taking on, or a remembering. So we might take a statement like this: I now release the energy that I'm pouring into this mental picture. The perfect resolution is now unfolding through this situation and through every aspect of my life. Let me say that again. I now release the energy that I'm pouring into this mental picture. The perfect resolution is now unfolding through this situation and through every aspect of my life. So the first part of this statement is a denial. I now release. I'm denying that energy the right to exist as it is in my consciousness. I now release the energy that I'm pouring into this mental picture. Now, this is not just a statement, it is an invitation to take the actual action of releasing that energy. So we sit down, we take time to be still, to relax, to lay aside all concerns to the extent that that's possible at the moment. And we just focus on that process that we're engaged in, that we are fearing, we're reacting negatively, and we begin to release that energy. I don't have to be negative here. I don't have to feel fear. I'm not obligated to do that. So I release it, I let it go. And I feel myself letting go of that negative energy. And I begin to actually breathe easier, and I begin to feel lighter, and I feel more peaceful. And I'm relaxed. I begin to relax more. And as this occurs, there's a natural rising of my own consciousness. And I've said many times, that is the affirmation. And that's very important. It's not words, it's an action. But I increase the awareness, my awareness of that action, by saying the perfect resolution is now unfolding through this situation and through my life. So we're each here to bear witness to the truth of our being. The spirit of freedom is alive in each one of us, because at the deepest level, we are already free. So I hope these ideas spark some new enthusiasm for the whole possibility of freedom. That we're not free just because we live in a certain nation. It's an attitude. It's an understanding that we are here to bear witness to the truth. This is the spirit of freedom. So thanks for coming out. I appreciate your being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Beth and I will be back, hopefully with some nice stories about our trip to Missouri. Thanks for watching.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
You've been watching a talk presented by Reverend Doug Bottorff at Independent Unity here in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. We would like to thank everyone who joined us here today, as well as those of you who joined us online. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to share it with those you think who might benefit from this message. If this brought value to your life, please consider donating to us on PayPal. Thanks again for watching.